along that journey, we're gonna do something that is not optimum, and we need to create that atmosphere where that's good and part of it. So another part of the whole process is flowing like a river. So you can see what I like about this is that you set up something you can believe in, you have a clear goal, but along that path things are going to blind and twist. But it's important that you have that goal out there. So if you look out there, that river is going to empty into the sea, and the sea is the goal. But along that path, there's little twists and turns, and we need to be open to that. But what's important is that we're always going towards the sea, and we're not going back to the land, we're not going up a mountain. We have a goal. And that's, again, is a key to creating greatness, is constantly reminding your team and reminding your people where we're going. So the next part, before we get into all the awesome things that Adam are going to talk about, because he's just a genius with all the stuff he's doing, is master the fundamentals. So again, thinking about the team, when I think about the team, I think we've got this great team of all these brilliant people. We've got Adam, Tony's out in the audience. We've got all these people that are so great at what they do and know technology really well. I'm not very tech savvy at all. But what I do know really well is I know the fundamentals. And so what I'm always concentrated on is what's up there on the screen and how are we creating a compelling image. And what I find a lot of times, since I've been in the games industry, is the fundamentals get lost. And if you have great technology, but you've lost the fundamentals, you're still not going to get a great image on the screen. So there's a few things that just kind of help you get to those great finished products. So the first thing is visual targets, and I do have some visual targets that we created back on our NBA Street game, and I still can't show the one that we're working on now. But so for example, when you're lighting an environment, so what we do is we actually go out and we get photo reference, and we start to put together a vision for what in this case a court, what that court could be. And the whole concept behind this was kind of a 70s influence. So we go out and find photos, and we start to identify the color palette. So when the guys are creating the environments and they're lighting the environments, they know exactly where they're going. And things shift a little bit, but you're going to start off getting 70% there, 80% there really, really quickly. Again, with skin, we talk about skin. What do we want the skin to look like? Well, the way we want to know the skin to look like is by, again, starting with photo reference. And this is a great way to help someone like Adam, who's going to come up with these amazing skin shaders for us, to know exactly what we're going after. And we have a target. Say, we're not quite achieving that goal. Lighting and color. Color is something that I'm super passionate about. Just fundamentals though. So I'm just going to go through a series of images. So this is a photographer that I really love. He shoots a lot of hip-hop photography. His name is Sasha Waldman. So simple complementary colors. And you can apply this to games. So for example, or movies. Amelie is a great example of somebody, a film used reds and greens. But the green excites the red. So if you put two complementary colors together, you're going to get a more vibrant frame, if that's your goal. Again, having the purple there on the warmer colors and the blue sky helps to pop somebody. Also use color to create form. So in King Kong, you can kind of see the warm side of the left side of the building and the cool color on the right side of the building. And that creates a full form. Same thing again here, you got the warm on the left and the cool on the right. And they've done it fairly sophisticated here. A lot of times in the game you get the really bright orange and the really bright blue. But this is a little more sophisticated. But again, it creates a really nice full form. You can also create different spaces, with the warm and cools. And when you take it away, you can see again, this might be what you're after, but it does create a different frame and tends to flatten it out. But again, that might be what you're after. There's no real rules in art. It all has to go with what your goal is. Another example. So if you're pulling out a character with color, again, makes the frame exciting. Your eye goes exactly to the guy in the red. If you don't do that, it tends to flatten out the frame, and maybe that's what your goal is. You might want to say, hey, I want this character to blend in with everybody, and you get that effect. But the point is that you can use color to your advantage and use color to create emotion. So light and darks. This is something that I learned a lot from a guy at EA, Henry Levanta, who was a Academy Award winning special effects guy from ILM. And we just got into simple light and darks. A lot of times in games, the darks are always in the back, but you can also use darks in the front to create space. So in this case, again, you have the silhouettes in the front and then the light in the back, and you're creating, a really nice foreground and background. It gets much more complex when you're doing an open world game like we're doing, but we use all these principles still. Again, you can see here, they've cut the lighting on that bridge, so that's dark, and then the space behind it is light. You get that front edge building that's light, and then the building behind it is dark. And those are principles, again, that you can apply to a game, is what's light, or what's dark, what's light, in creating foreground and background. Again, you got that yellow pole in the foreground, which is light, against a dark background in the middle, and then the building behind it, which is light. So you get light, dark, light, and you're, again, creating a nice spatial relationship. Just again, same principles. You have light in the front, a little bit dark asphalt in the middle ground, and then a light wall in the back, but then that's on the dark building in the back. So you're getting, again, a nice rhythm of light and dark. Another little test that I just thought I'd put in here, it's really simple, but if anybody's doing any lighting or creating any environments for frames, it's just a simple test of dynamic range. It's generally a color photograph. If you change it to black and white, it should still read, you should still have all the values in the frame. So that's from Kane and Lynch, and you can see it's actually kind of doesn't have a lot of dynamic range, and it's a little bit flat when you go to black and white. So if you had taken that image, you could actually bring some more lights into it and push the darks, and you get a more exciting frame. When you start getting into Crisis, you start to see stuff that starts to be a lot more interesting. Here, again, pretty nice looking shot. If you go to black and white, you can see it still probably have just a little bit more on the lights and a little bit more on the darks, and you get an even more excited frame. And then when you get to this shot from Crisis, they actually are starting to really accomplish all that, and you've got a really nice tonal values through there. And you go to black and white, it's virtually has the same impact in the shot. Going back to Sasha's work, again, you can see there's the color, and when you go to black and white, there's virtually no changes in that. So the exposure is pretty much spot on. Quickly, form and proportion. So again, using reference. So if you're creating buildings, it's great to have photos out there, just so you can see how pieces fit together. Proportions of things. A lot of times in games you might see windows that aren't quite the right proportions. And even if you're doing something stylistic, it's always good to know where you're starting from and departing on purpose and doing it for a reason. When you're doing characters, just getting into basic anatomy if you're doing humans, and if you're not doing humans, it's still good to know how structures fit together. Really classical things. I have a kind of a weird obsession with triceps fitting together well. I guess from working on NBA Street, it's really hard to model those nicely, but we're constantly pushing on, how does the tricep fit into the deltoid? How does the tricep fit into the elbow? How does the elbow fit into the forearm? And all those curves working together nicely. How wide are the shoulders? Just really, really basics. But you get really nice characters if you just focus on that. If you're doing human stuff. This project I've gotten more into animation and just thinking about posing and characters. And so for example, one of our main characters, I had the animator actually went out and found photo reference of probably about 100 photos that were kind of in the right area, and then we look at them and we say, oh, these are the two that we think communicate great, and then we did like 10 poses on those two, we did 10 poses each, and we said, oh, this is the way to go from that. And then from those 10, we created another 20 poses. So we probably did about 75 poses to get just the right one, and that has to do with like how the head turns, whether it's slightly up or slightly down, whether the shoulders are slightly forward or slightly back, and all these things are communications. And so when we talk about posing, it's like we want our audience to feel about the character, and just a slight head tilt can make a difference. Yesterday I was over at the, I think his name was Chris Wells, the guy from Epic Games, and something really struck a chord with me, which he was saying, now that we're on next gen, all these subtleties actually matter and they actually come across. And so again, I think it's funny that you're getting in the next gen, but in some ways you need to actually go even further back into the fundamentals, because now you can actually see all these things and they make a difference to your audience. So just these great poses, from The Incredibles. All three characters feel completely different. Of course it is because of their form as well, but their poses just say so much about who they are.
This is something that we've learned, that you actually have to, when you're doing animation, animations, your first set you completely throw away. A lot of animators, junior guys especially, get really attached to their stuff. So